Well, you may be wondering what I'm doing standing next to an old road construction A-frame sign, and I'm going to tell you, I'm making the ambulance road legal. Um, I'm making the ambulance legal to drive on public highways. Let me tell you how that fits together. I actually started this last night, and I was going to record it, but then my wife came out and we just had a conversation and just enjoying each other's company. Just kind of chit-chatting about whatever. The kids were off playing, and so it was just some nice husband-wife time, and I didn't want to mess that up by having to record and do a show. So we just enjoyed having a conversation while I worked away and kind of figure this out. And I've got to give credit to my buddy Steve. I've been bouncing ideas off of him, and he's the one that kind of came up with this idea and kind of helped me put these pieces together. So basically what I've done is, let's see if you can spot the difference, right? I've got an off-road light here and the red light there. So what I did is I took a piece of that plastic and cut it out to cap off the hole where the red light was. And with that cap, I created a natural mounting point for the off-road light. So that bracket, I had to modify the bracket a little bit so that it could swivel all the way back and mount to that plate. But I was able to use the old weather seal off of the red lights in order to kind of basically seal off the opening and the plate for these off-road lights. So I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. When I originally bought these off-road lights, the idea was that they had kind of the same shape and size as the red ones. So I was hoping to do a flush mount to make that work perfectly, but it's just not quite working. Now that I've got it mounted up there, I'm kind of like, I almost wish I would have gone a little bit bigger. Like, this is a 7-inch. I wish maybe I would have gone to like an 8 or 10-inch, or I don't know what the standard sizes are, but maybe a little bit bigger to fill that spot. But I also think it looks a little weird because I've got one of each. I think when they're matching, it'll look a lot better. The coolest thing was the plastic that I was able to pull off had this orange and white reflective vinyl on it, and that orange and white like almost perfectly matches the ambulance. So I tried to cut it in a way, where are we at? Here we go. I tried to cut it in a way to where we had kind of both on there, and the angles. You can see this is kind of beat up. Some of the vinyl's peeling off. I tried to pick the cleanest spots that I could. I don't know. I was just going to throw them up there, see how I liked it, and if it looked kind of hokey, then I'd probably pull it off and paint it white or do something different with it. But I think it's going to look kind of cool. I think it's going to match the theme. It's not perfect, so it's kind of got that rustic, kind of roughed out, I don't know, feeling to it. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, I was happy I found this. You can remember I started with the metal pieces. I started working with those, but decided that they were just going to be, there we go. I started working with these, but I decided that that contour shape that I've traced on there was just going to be too tricky to cut out easily and make look nice and all of that. And Steve's the one that said, you know, I was thinking more like a thick plastic or something. I'm like, wait a minute. I remember somewhere on our property there was an old road construction sign, and I'm pretty sure the slats on that were a thick plastic. And sure enough, that's what we've got. And it's already been weather worn. I don't know how old this thing is. I don't know where it came from. There's a lot of stuff on this property that I just don't know where it came from or what. But it's already been proven that it can withstand the elements, and that's a nice thick, I mean, that's probably a full 1/4 inch thick sheet of plastic there, or whatever this is. I don't know for sure exactly what material is. It's great. So where I got to yesterday was I got the one side mounted up, kind of proving the concept that it's all going to work. I started running wires. I kind of did some research, or not research, I did some investigating and figured out how to wire in the switch and wires and stuff like that. So that's all kind of pre-run. So my next step is I think I've got a way to run it with the solid lights on, the off-road lights, or be able to switch it so that they will still flash with the emergency lights. Again, Steve, I got to give him credit, bouncing ideas off of him, trying to figure out how to do that without backfeeding the system. And he came up with a great idea, which I'll kind of show you as I do it. So I think it's going to work perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and get to this. I'm hoping I can get this finished up pretty quick this morning. And then my wife and I are going to go on another date today, and we're going to see if we can't run out to an old Anasazi ruin out in this area with it. So there's a good chance that if I can get this done quick enough, we'll be able to go run and do that today too, which I'd love to do. It's turning out to be a beautiful day. Sun's out and shining, temperature is good. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to get out and start doing adventures again. It's been great what I've been able to get done in the shop, but I'm just excited to be out in the hills again, seeing stuff and being active and just enjoying this beautiful, wonderful, magnificent area that I get to live in. Something like that. I'll have to aim them and adjust them better once I've got them all hooked up and can kind of do it at night. Just trying to get them kind of somewhat in position right now. Something like that. All right, let's go take a look. That definitely evens out the look better. I was worried that they were going to look kind of offset, that base isn't perfectly centered and such like that. But I think the issue was I was looking at one that was flush mount and one that was flush mount and centered, and one that was standing off with a stand and not quite perfectly centered vertically. So I think it looks good. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I think that's gonna work. So now let's hop inside and see if we can get all the wiring figured out. Okay, let me bring you up to speed here, kind of where I got with this. So I've got this tied into the solenoid back there, and the whole harness set up. It's got an inline fuse, and then I've run them up this panel, and then they'll duck into the roof there. Now up here, they pop up in, and then we've got all this space that we can work with in here, which is really nice. So I've got the pigtails pulled out. So this is the, oh, there we go. This is the plugs that'll go into the lights. They tie in together here, and this span between the two is going to be too short, I think, to, well, actually, maybe it will reach. I don't know, maybe it will reach, but no matter what, I'm going to have to cut into this because I'm going to put that switch in so that I can switch it between solid and flashing. This is the switch that comes with the light harness. I debated a long time, so here's the switch panel here. It's kind of cool. You just undo these two screws and it hinges down so you can access everything. This switch right here is blank. Nothing's using that. So I had the thought of, well, maybe I should utilize that, keep it all original. But I found this right here while I was in there looking that's not tied into anything, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if this was meant for that switch originally. I'm just not sure exactly what that setup is or what that means. I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and drill a new hole, or two new holes into this panel, and go ahead and use the switch that this came with and the new toggle switch, and leave all that stuff as is, and leave this switch here, which I don't know what it is, for the future if I find something, if I figure out what this is or need it for something else or something like that. I think that's going to be the plan, and not worry about the fact that I'm going to be putting a modern switch in a 70s style switch panel, if that makes sense. Because the reason why I'm thinking that is because I think there's a chance that I might redo all of this at some point. I talked about the camping setup and how the main switch is here, but I'm running lights from the back and all that stuff. I think there's a good chance that I might end up kind of redoing that and putting in a new like button style panel or something anyways. I'm just not sure, but anyways, let me know what you think, if I made the right choice on that or not, down in the comments below. So that's the plan, is I'm going to, basically what I'm going to do is cut this harness, tie in, probably cut this harness, run it to the switch, so probably what I'm going to do is cut this harness, run it to the toggle. I'm going to tie in the flashing lines into the toggle, and then from the toggle I will come out to this harness, which will plug into the back of the light. And then yeah, if that doesn't make sense, stay tuned and you'll see what I do. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this harness, and then I'm going to take these two pigtails and feed them from the front. I already pre-drilled holes in the plates that this won't fit through, but this is a good sealed connection to go to the light. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off, feed them through the hole from the outside, plug them in, and then I've got some sealant to finish sealing up that hole. Try right about here. And even though these may be long enough, I'm gonna have to run line anyways because I'm coming to a toggle and then to them. So I'm not too concerned about where I cut these, because like I said, I'm gonna have to add in line anyways. There's a junction right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this back here, get rid of that junction, and then perfect. Yep, I've got a hot in the ground there. I'll be able to extend the ground probably straight through to tie into these grounds on the lights, and then the hots will come off of the toggle. And yeah, I think that's gonna work great. So I'm gonna hop outside real quick and feed these through, get them sealed up, and then we'll start working in here again. I'm back. You may not have even known that I left, because I might split these episodes, but we just took Sammy, went out to a really cool spot, saw some really cool stuff. You're not going to want to miss that one. And Sammy ran like a champ. It was great. I just cruised right along. I never had to use four-wheel drive because it just goes. But ran great. I did, however, notice that the rear shocks have lost air. And upon further inspection, what I thought might happen did happen, and the exhaust ended up cutting one of the boots on the driver's side here, and so not holding air. So darn it, gonna have to do something about that. But other than that, ran great, just ran fantastic, ton of fun. But it's time to get back onto this so that I can get all that wiring wrapped up, get it all put back together so that it's ready for our next adventure in that one. All right, just put Sammy away. I think where I'm at on this is I need to test and make sure that these LED lights are going to flash okay with the flasher motor for the emergency lights. I honestly think it's going to be just fine because it's not a standard flasher to where when you get the low voltage of the LED, you know, it wants to act like there's not a bulb like some of your vehicles do, and it'll do like a quick flash. But I'm also not familiar with this style of flasher motor, so it'll be good just to test it, make sure it's going to work okay before I go through the whole effort of doing the wiring and putting in the toggle and all that stuff. So I think that's what we'll do now, and then if that works, we'll start putting in toggles and get to the rest of it. I'm gonna guess that looked really awkward. Doing that time lapse. I'm not sure how to show you what I'm doing, and that space up there is just so cramped. Anyways, hopefully that worked okay. But so I've got my grounds hooked up. What I'm gonna do now is hook up one of the hots of the flashers to see if the flash is gonna work okay with these LEDs, and then if that's working okay, then I'll continue wiring it all up and getting that set up. So I'm gonna do that real quick and we'll see what happens there. All right, I'm gonna set you up back here, and so you're gonna have to tell me if this works or not, because I'm gonna have my head stuck up in the roof. So you watch real closely. I'm gonna hook up the driver's side. You tell me if it works or not. Well, did it work okay? Oh, good. That's good to hear. Okay, well, I'm happy it worked. So Yeah, I guess that means I can finish wiring it up the way that I planned. So I'm going to get back in there and get to it, and probably give you a couple more really awkward time lapses as well. Okay, I think I've got it figured. I went ahead and put the panel back up in place, and this is how it should work. So that's the main switch, so nothing can work with that on. It's tied into that. So master switch on, I turn that on, and if the toggle is that way, then we've got our floodlights and they're on solid. But if I switch the toggle that way, that turns off the floodlights. However, we can turn on our flashing lights and they'll sit there and flash, which you might be able to see on the shop. It's bright enough, but I'll take you outside so you can take a better look at it. Okay, so should have flashing lights, and then should have solid lights. Did it work? Solid lights off, on, and flashing lights on, off. Sweet. Yeah. I am excited about that. That's super cool. Okay, I'm going to take a few minutes to try and clean up my mess so that hopefully this is finished. I need to tighten those down, make sure that they're in good shape and not going to move, and I think we're good to go.